I'm like, where did you go? So turmeric root's really exciting. We usually get it fresh whenever possible and organic. You have to get turmeric root organic. You don't want non-organic turmeric. It's just not good for you. But so you get turmeric root and you can peel it, shave it, put it into a solution. I freeze it, right? So a million different reasons that you would want turmeric whole. And we talked about that at convention, or Dr. Hill did, not we. I wasn't with him on stage. But turmeric root is a very complicated and delicious natural herbal product, right? So it's the root of this plant, and it looks a lot like ginger. It's just an orange ginger is what it looks like when you get it naturally. Kira always said it looked like dead fingers, which is kind of gross, but it's kind of true. And the chemistry of turmeric is varied. So you're going to get a lot out of it. There is the typical proteins, carbs, minerals, vitamins. There's that aspect. That's the main chunk. And then there's also the curcuminoids, which we've all been taking. If you've heard that word before, we've all been taking in the alpha CRS and the deep blue polyphenols. So the curcuminoids are something I've taught on quite a bit now for the past 4 years. We've been talking about curcuminoids. So that shouldn't be something that's technically new because we talk a lot about it. The thing with curcuminoids is that when you're ingesting turmeric root whole, or you're doing dried turmeric in a capsule and you're getting for the curcuminoids, you're typically not getting the absorption that you want, which is why in our supplements they're paired with essential oils, which is why in traditional Chinese medicine, turmeric is always mixed with black pepper, right? And ginger and things like that, because it all enhances and gives the synergy. So we're looking at synergy always. The wise people always were looking at synergy. And so we want to make sure that we are as well. Because if you take a curcuminoid or you take a turmeric supplement on its own, it's going to get digested right out of you, right? You're going to process it and eliminate it pretty quickly because the synergy is important. So when we're talking about turmeric essential oils, specifically doTERRA's, and I'll explain that in a minute, we're looking at the tumerones is what we want. So we have turmeric root as the food, and then we have the isolated curcuminoids, which is the herb, and then we have the tumerones, which is the essential oil, or the oil or CO2 extraction, but I'm going to talk about the difference in a second. Dr. Hill said pairing it with black pepper had its challenges because it increases bioavailability, but it's not a complete profile. And that's why you look at our supplements, it's not just black pepper that's added. There's other things added that help with the digestion of it. Another issue is pairing it with just black pepper doesn't actually amplify the effects enough to where you're going to see a huge difference. You still need to take it with a fatty meal and all the other things that people say to do to increase your absorption of curcuminoids. In the alpha CRS and deep blue polyphenol both, I believe ginger's in both, and there's other different herbs and components that he was saying increase the bioavailability of curcuminoids by 7 times the amount that you're going to get out of taking them in those supplements. And so another word of wise, word of the wise, for the wise, however that saying goes. If you buy turmeric in the grocery store, a lot of the turmeric you buy off the shelf has already had the curcuminoids and the tumerones removed. So you're not going to be getting the same kind of effects out of making a golden milk latte, which is very popular these days. You're not going to get so much of the benefit if you're getting just a basic, even organic turmeric off the shelf. Turmeric root whole or a very intentional herbal product is going to be better for the golden milk. That's inside product, has nothing to do with essential oils. But if you follow me on social media, you know I've been drinking those turmeric lattes for a long time. So as soon as I got the turmeric in my hands, I was like, oh, that's going in my milk, right? And I do put black pepper and ginger in my turmeric lattes. So I can share that recipe later if someone reminds me. It's delicious. It's delicious. Even my kids love it. So it looks like everyone's back. We're going to talk about Turmerones, and we're going to talk about the difference between CO2 extraction, which you'll see marketed as a beneficial thing, and then we're going to talk about steam distillation, which is what doTERRA does and why we chose it specifically. Again, not we, I don't make these decisions. Why Dr. Hill chose it and why I love him so much and he's my favorite. So with CO2 extraction, they're using a process to get the Turmerones out. It is a good way. It's better than a solvent-based extraction. So it is going to be marketed like, hey, there's no solvents in this. It's delicious, right? And so people think that the CO2 extraction is the gold standard. The problem with CO2 extraction is it's non-specific. And what that means is it sometimes leaves things behind. It's not complete. It's not a complete extraction. So when you're using CO2, you can go high pressure or low pressure, and you can do things a little differently and tweak it. You're still not going to get a consistent end product. And you're not always going to get all the product you want, and sometimes you're going to get some of the things you don't. So with the end product after CO2 extraction, you're going to end up still with inconsistent chemistry. You're going to end up with lots of curcuminoids, which is fine, except that you get better curcuminoids from a supplement type product than you do from a CO2 extraction, so it's not even a complete way of getting them. And you get very little Turmerones, and the Turmerones is where the magic happens. So doTERRA goes with steam distillation in that regard, because steam distillation is going to get all the volatile components and none of the heavy stuff. So what that means is we're not going to get curcuminoids in our oil at all. There's none there. There's no solvents, there's no impurities either, but we are getting all that delicious volatile substance, which really, really easily gets into our cells. So everything that you want to take turmeric herb for is going to happen so much easier with the essential oil when it's steam distilled, because it readily acts on those cell membranes and becomes incredibly bioavailable. So one of the things we want to look at with turmeric, right? So we've been talking about with pink pepper and yarrow and green mandarin, we've been talking about these pathways and the disruption of these pathways that cause tissue disruption. So you're bringing turmeric along because it is highly bioavailable and it's incredibly soothing to tissues. So as you're stopping the pathways that cause tissue disruption, you're bringing turmeric on board that's going to soothe any tissue disruption that has already occurred. Did I say that right? Everybody's excited? They get what I'm saying? Yay. So when you bring turmeric on board, the Turmerones in the turmeric are going to soothe the tissues. If the tissues have already been disrupted, the tissues that are exposed to Turmerones are going to recover faster and show greater recovery and resilience than tissues without the turmeric. And if you can get the turmeric to the tissues before the tissue disruption begins, it's protective of the tissues in addition to creating resilience in case the tissue disruption starts to occur. So it's protective and soothing, and we kind of know that about turmeric. That's what we've been told turmeric would do, but we don't always see it because it's not as effective when you get it in any other form. So it's increasing the antioxidant activity within the body, it's soothing the tissues, it's helping, again, it's going to create synergy for the cardiovascular health. It is going to help with the neurological function. It's going to help with the neurotransmitter system. And what we're finding, they're finding, I really want to work at doTERRA, can you tell? Is that healthy neurons are just like the tissue. And so in the nervous system, where we very rarely see positive growth in the Western medicine world, I'm trying really hard here, where it's hard to bring damaged neurological function back to life. We're seeing a promise that turmeric and the turmerones specifically help those tissues soothe and stop the disruption there very well. And it's something that they do whether the neurons are stressed or healthy. So protective and soothing. So that's very exciting. The way that you want to use turmeric, like I said, I'm using all four together. But if you have things that are specific to the lungs, right, and you want to specifically use that soothing property in the tissue protection and everything I just said about the turmerones, if you want to enhance that, you want to mix it with the green mandarin, and it's going to synergistically help target that respiratory system. So in any kind of situation where the lungs are needing some more sturdy energy, or they're maybe overreactive, or I really want to just say it, lung. Anytime you have a lung involvement whatsoever, you want to be thinking about turmeric mixed with green mandarin. Anytime that you're talking about the tissue disruption of the body, right? So anything that might cause overall discomfort or your sensations from your extremities, you want to pair the turmeric with yarrow palm and copaiba. So those are going to be the synergistic powerhouses where you want to really focus on. Now, when I say that you can take all four together, that's not because science at convention told me that. That's because science in modern Western medicine told me that. So COX-2 inhibitors with 5-LOX inhibitors mixed with something like turmeric. The reason that is so exciting is because there have been a lot of studies looking into how Western medicine might target the specific tissues we're looking at. And the overall excitement comes when you're looking at disrupting the 5-LOX and the COX-2 at the exact same time, because there's massive amounts of improvement, yet there can still be damage to tissues. So when you're adding the turmeric, right, to the Western medicine side, there's damage with tissues when it comes to Western medicine. Now, when you're looking at essential oils, there's not the side effect of damage to tissues. You're not looking at gastrointestinal side effects. You're talking about turmeric and the synergistic effect, how it is protective and also soothing. You're looking at feeling better fast. So we're talking about massive shifts, big changes. When you're adding turmeric to these blends, you're talking about big, big changes. Julie, how would you do that for a child? Turmeric, like mixed with the green mandarin or whatever. I would be doing it internal even for children. My kids at this point are 8, 10, and 13, so they're all able to take capsules. So at their ages, I would go internal. But if you're talking like 6 and under, or if you're even uncomfortable or unsure about internal for 8 and under, I would go with making an oil blend that you would add to a smoothie is probably how I would go about it. So I would dilute them in something like a flaxseed oil, or even getting more pomegranate oil or something like that, and dilute the oils into another oil and then add some of that oil to drops. Yes, Paula, all 4 drops in 1 veggie cap, morning and night. And I took a picture of it on Instagram and posted it. It's not a lot of oil, those little 4 drops, right? Like, doesn't feel like a lot at all. But that is what I'm doing. And so, Julia, in case I wasn't clear, I would dilute to a child level that I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with, and then give it to them. Although I'm pretty comfortable with these oils and the safety profile of all of them, there's not a single oil of the new oils that I would be concerned about. Yes, MCT oil would work with those in a smoothie. Yep. And with the turmeric, you can hide it really easy with a citrus. So if you're putting any sort of, or even like a strawberry, is gonna really mix with that turmeric quite well, especially because you're not gonna, even if not, I'm so clear. like with my instructions. But especially because you're diluting them extra, the turmeric's not going to be quite so strong. And the minute the turmeric's mixed with that green mandarin, it loses so much of that herbal, you know, smell that people are so opposed to. So yeah, that's turmeric. That's it. That's all I got. We got through it. I didn't say any crazy words. I'm really proud of myself. Does anyone have any questions while I'm here? If not, I'll just catch them in the comments as they come. Because now all I can think about is apple cider and donuts. So that's happening. Like 5 minutes from now, I'm going to be eating.